Have you ever wondered why we call our channel FreudenFreude? Let's talk about it. Hi and welcome to another episode of our FreudenFreude channel, where we help you grow and develop as a person and as a leader.
Hi, I'm Sandra,
And I'm Claudia.
executive coach who works with neurodiverse professionals, expatriates, and executives.
And I am a professional coach acting as a catalyst to individuals, corporate leaders, and entrepreneurs and their teams in tech and beyond.
So let's get right into it. Let's discuss what FreudenFreude means.
Good pronunciation. Good pronunciation, Sandra.
I'm learning from the best.
Yeah, because FreudenFreude, it's actually, the EU is pronounced oi. FreudenFreude. It's a term that comes from the German. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what it means, Sandra?
So FreudenFreude, we discovered that it's the enjoyment of another person's success.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Most people might actually be more familiar with the term Schadenfreude, which is the exact opposite, where we have this kind of not so great reaction of joy when we see other people's mishaps, misfortunes, and so on. So Freudenfreude is the opposite of Schadenfreude. So why did we choose Freudenfreude?
So FreudenFreude, I was reading the book from Brene Brown and her latest book. And I was listening to her discussing what shame is. And she said FreudenFreude. And that's when I thought, oh, that's a really good name to describe what shame is. And then it came out that it's been discussed in TV shows, newspapers, but it hasn't been something that we actually use as a language. So I thought, now in this time, let's start doing that.
Yeah. I think as a coach, it is a concept and an attitude that I am very big proponent of. It's just, now we are learning that there's an actual term for it, this Freudenfreude, but this happily living vicariously through others and being happy to celebrate the success of others is for me actually a very fundamental attitude that gives you a lot of happiness. Why should I always be jealous? Or why would I feel ashamed of maybe not having reached this pinnacle of success as others do? Being happy for somebody else does not take away from me or my own achievements at all. Let's give them their dues. So, and by the way, I need to pull Brené's book off the shelf and read it. It has been on my to-read list for a while. There's never enough time in the day to read all this wonderful stuff that's available.
She is amazing. I love her. What I was thinking is, who do you actually think, and I know the answer, but I would like to hear your opinion. Who do you actually think receives more Schadenfreude?
Schadenfreude.
Schadenfreude.
It's really an Schadenfreude. Yes.
So for our viewers, let's show them Schadenfreude. There you go. Okay, who receives more Schadenfreude?
Who receives more? I think a lot of people that maybe don't feel so good, don't have a good confidence level in their own success, maybe people that feel threatened by other people's success. You're really putting me on the spot here, Sandra.
But
yeah, it's like feeling big because somebody else can be made small.
So when it comes to gender, male or females, who gets it the most, do you think?
Why bring gender into this? Is it really a gender issue? I challenge you on that. What does the research say?
I'd say that at work, not socially so much nowadays, but at work, women tend to receive more Schadenfreude than men. The research shows that women are most likely to be receiving shame because they either have a child that they have to go home to. Usually we're the ones who take care of those kind of situations. And males, most of the males rely on their spouses or on their female companions to take care of this. So when it comes to family matters, when it comes to not being able to stay late or not being able to go to one of those company gatherings, women are the ones that usually decline invitations because they have other responsibilities that are usually not shared by the other companion.
And how does that then factor into having enjoyment from other people's misfortune?
So I would say that this is something, I'm going to go to the extreme. I would say that I remember that as a single person, when I was single and I was at the office, I would get invited, to the after parties after the office, and I would hear how some coworkers would not be able to make it, and I would say, "Oh, thank goodness I don't have children." So you're not saying it, but you're already thinking it. So it's kind of a Schadenfreude.
Yeah. I just say it like the inner bitch came out. Sorry. Versus, no, women have this. We go into this bitchy mode if we're not careful. And I think that for men, a tendency by more for it to be seen as an invitation to compete. Yeah. I think that maybe the thing might be a little bit more of this macho response of, okay, this person had success, I'm going to show them, and I'm going to get power from that and compete, versus women might be more like, okay, like let's badmouth them and things like that.
Yeah, exactly.
On the other hand, now FreudenFreude is let's all be happy when people reach good points, when there's success, when they're being rewarded. Let's all celebrate together, and so on. And research has actually shown that the more on the scale from Schadenfreude to FreudenFreude that you are in a given situation, because we're never really one thing or the other, we're always sliding forth and back, but the more you can have a tendency towards the Freudenfreude, the more it's helpful to combat depression, to feel good in your skin, to be more relaxed about situations, to feel less threatened, to feel less when you do not succeed as quickly, or you're getting older, or you're not as pretty. You don't need to feel less just because somebody else in your mind looks like more, because we never know the whole picture anyway.
So that would be kind of like psychological safety, right? At least at the workplace, when you feel that you're celebrated, that even when you make a mistake, it's like, it's okay, we're going to fix it. There's this thing about, how would you call it? Togetherness, work as a team. So there's no shame.
Yeah. So Freudenfreude, I think, can be on two different levels. It can be a purely internal, very, very personal attitude. It doesn't need to be something that is necessarily expressed externally. You can just internally be happy and have this attitude of cherishing somebody else's success, of supporting them, instead of having feelings internally, very privately, of being jealous or threatened or whatever. And then, of course, if it transcends social boundaries and it gets expressed in a group, and it can actually become this very open, communicated expression that is true and authentic and not fake, right? Because we can all go brouhaha, yeah, he did great, he reached quota or whatever, but everybody's cringing internally, right? But
Yes.
let's say if it were this true felt and meant expression of common joy in somebody else's success, I think it can be something very powerful. But that's something that needs to be built. It's not something that can be just a decision or necessarily, I think, a corporate request. It is something that has to be built and maintained over time. What's your take on that?
Well, I'm thinking about, since you're saying it's something that it's not related normally to external situations, it's how you feel in the inside. I was thinking, I was reading through Wikipedia and I saw that Schadenfreude is experienced in the early age of 24 months.
Really? Wow.
Yes. And so I thought, well, if we could help children, if we can help people go back into that time, or at least try to avoid it, right? Since now a lot of you know now, what you're saying to your children and how you're saying it to your children. And so when it comes to coaching, now here's the question for you. I'm going to put you in the spot again. How would you help a client to at least see that what he thinks is shameful is not shameful? Idea belief.
Okay, can you rephrase the question without using the term shame?
Okay.
Because not everybody listening to this is familiar with the framework of shame and Brené Brown's work and things like that. Let's keep it more in universal language.
So shame is not a universal language, okay?
No, it's. I don't want to cloud this discussion just from that one point.
I see. Okay.
Like how would I come with somebody who has a very predominant tendency to Schadenfreude?
You want us to start using it? Okay, got it. Okay, so as a coach, Claudia, how would you help a client that is feeling Schadenfreude as a belief?
Well, I think it's more of a reaction than a belief, but that's a detail. Okay, how do we change anything? How do we change anything? I think that, first of all, defining the context. Somebody else is successful, and I observe that. What is my reaction to that? And I would start, literally, like everything in coaching, with awareness. I would ask the client, what happens to you when you see that?
Okay.
How does it make you feel?
Okay.
Is it, in your view, is it appropriate or not? What's going on inside you? Does it happen often? What other alternatives would you have of reacting to this other person's success? And you just go around it and let the client explore whether his usual reaction, his habitual reaction, is the most beneficial to him, or his interactions with other people, whether it be in the social, family, or work life. Right? So, and then it's a decision for the client to make. I'm not going to prescribe anybody FreudenFreude. If it is, a choice for them after careful observation and careful thinking about it, and raising awareness that maybe the habitual thing might be counterproductive to reaching life goals, to be a good communicator, to be a good connector, then maybe over time there can be some change, or maybe not.
Yeah.
The client has, it's in his court, right? It's in his court. What would you
Right.
add to that, Sandra?
I would say that I would add a little bit of options,
Sure, sure.
the alternatives of what it would look like, and start mentioning, giving a better idea of what the person believes is Schadenfreude.
Schadenfreude.
Schadenfreude. Oh my God, I'm gonna get used to this. So Schadenfreude, and I mean, there's many techniques. We don't want to give them away, but there's many techniques to help a person debunk. That's what I would use the word debunk the belief, the idea, or like you said, concept of what Schadenfreude is for them, and if it really is, and what it is based on. Is it something that they grew up listening to, or is it external? Right? Because a lot of the things that we grow up with is believing what we hear externally or read externally, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Our body image, everything. So I was thinking about FreudenFreude, and I was thinking, what would be the negative side of FreudenFreude all the time? And it came to me to say, like, what is the word that a lot of people are using now? The positive language, right? What is it? I'm trying to think the word. Positive language, positive. What is it, Claudia? Do you remember?
The whole positive psychology stuff that's
exactly.
happening. Yeah.
Exactly. I think that a lot of people start like walking away from reality if there's too much of that. Right? So there has to be a balance. That's what I thought could be the negative side of FreudenFreude.
Well, it needs to be genuine, I think, right? And we have to realize that we maybe will not be 100% Freudenfreude 100% of the time.
Right.
Right. I mean, that's just how it is. Sometimes there's like some people that are going to irk us and stuff that's going to be frustrating, and it's okay. It's not like we're going to say that Schadenfreude is like this horrible, terrible thing. It's part of human nature. It is one option. The whole thing of it is we have options in our reactions.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I think having this moment to stop and reflect and see which one would be now more appropriate, which one really is helpful or not helpful in this situation, having this split second and this awareness of what's happening, I think is really important. And yes, obviously, when you're working with a client, you give it as an option. You give kind of this little bit of education. On the other hand, you do not insist on it. Mm-hmm. It's like you give the client options. You help the client find his own options, but the decision is always the client's. Yeah.
Right.
And then my job is done. I'm not going to judge one way or the other. Yeah.
Heidi.
Yeah, Schadenfreude versus Freudenfreude. I really do like it. I think it ties, Freudenfreude for me ties into gratitude, into looking at the positive. I think it's an antagonist to the bias of negativity, which is a very strong bias that we have as humans, that the negative is coming across more strongly, and that's based on our evolution. That the negative comes across as stronger than the positive, and is also remembered more.
Right.
We have to look actively with effort for these silver linings that always exist. It's not like the positive doesn't exist. It is just that our brain has this very natural tendency to look at the negative more. And I think if you remember, it was much more important that we saw the tiger in the bushes way back when than the pretty flowers on the side of the road. Okay, so the negative, because it represented danger and danger to survival, was just magnified that much more. So I think in today's day and age, then being able to cultivate this attitude of FreudenFreude, this attitude of gratitude, this true felt optimism, I think is really powerful, because you just become happier if you look consistently for these silver linings, for the positive. It's there. And it becomes a habit to become more aware of it.
So, I love what you said, and I wanted to add on to this discussion. What is that people need to look for if they want to use these words, right? Because you cannot just throw them out there and not using them properly. So I wanted to say that, for example, Schadenfreude, the things that you need to look into is, for example, aggression, rivalry, and justice, right? Justice is based on Schadenfreude, comes from seeing that behavior seen as immoral or bad is punished. And this is like a moral emotion, don't you think? Justice is a moral emotion.
Yes, it is. It is.
And then you have the self-esteem part, right? The self-esteem, the identity part, because you also have, if we're talking about culture, which is ICQ that we're coming from, which is how we met, by the way, the group identity is also the part of the aggression that I was mentioning. And they say, for example, I'm going to read what I'm looking at here. The aggression-based Schadenfreude primarily involves group identity. The joy of observing the suffering of others comes from the observer's feeling that the other's failure represents an improvement or validation of their own group's status in relation to external. And so I think this is very important for people to realize, because it comes back to what we were talking about when it comes to the office, right? The psychological safety part and the moral emotion that you can cause a person, the damage that you can cause into a person when you make this part of your personality. Thank you, Penny. So this is life. we have family here, and by the way, Claudia has 2 cats.
Yeah,
so you might eventually see them.
They're right there sequestered outside of the room. We got them like 2 weeks ago. They're teenagers. They're all over the place, but I'm sure in due time they're gonna like walk right in front of the camera here eventually. Yeah,
and if there's anybody that we know that has 0 Schadenfreude, are cats. Right? So, like, really. But Schadenfreude are dogs, which I have 2 dogs. So, does that say anything? I don't know. But anyway, it's just that I wanted to say it out there so that when people see it, they're not, surprised. We let life happen here in this.
Yeah. So again, I think that some takeaways here is that Schadenfreude and FreudenFreude can be very private, intimate, internal kind of things just for you. And it can then expand to a group or collective and take over that whole situation. But Schadenfreude in those cases is much more prevalent than Freudenfreude being externalized in my personal experience. So the thing here is, when you see somebody else's success, progress, promotion, happiness, success in life, whether apparent or real, because today in social media, not everything that you see is the actual truth, but
Right.
ask yourself always, what's my reaction to it? How do I react to it? And if you happen to see yourself reacting with Schadenfreude, maybe take a split second and ask yourself, is there not another way that I could be reacting? Is this in mine and or everybody's benefit? Does it add something to the situation or not? Because fundamentally, somebody else's success does not need to be your failure.
Exactly.
Okay.
I think another thing, if you don't mind, I would like to add is to tell people, remember that Schadenfreude and Freudenfreude is also an option. You have the option to whether feel Schadenfreude or to choose Freudenfreude.
Mm-hmm. Remember, it's a choice ultimately, and whether you give in to an habitual kind of gut reaction without much thinking about it, or whether you take this split second of reflection and control, that ultimately is up to you.
Right.
Yeah. Is this a good place?
Triggers.
Yeah. Is this a good place to stop, Sandra?
I think so. How about if we just recap what is that we feel each one of us is the most important to mention that we learned from this discussion?
Yeah, well, I think that for me, I just summarized it already. It can, be internal or external, and it is ultimately a choice. And I think that being aware of how we react and then responding rather than reacting is, like in so many things, really key.
Right. So for me, it's most importantly, it's always about option. It's a choice, like we were saying right at the end. And overall, is that your own values and beliefs are yours, and what other people's values and beliefs are is theirs, and it's not your problem. What they consider is Schadenfreude and Freudenfreude. Did I say it right?
Yeah, you're making progress. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, there you go. So if somebody makes you feel Freudenfreude, remember it's their choice. That's what they consider it to be, and it's not your fault, and it's not for you to own it. That's what I take away from this.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, everybody, if you like what you just heard, please subscribe, hit that big button, and also click the notification bell so you do not miss any of our content. We will be back to you very regular in the future. We will be scheduling lives every Wednesday at 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, and we hope that you will be able to join us at that point.
Oh, and one invitation to the audience. I would like to ask if anybody would like to suggest a topic, to please feel free to send us a message. I don't know what, via LinkedIn?
LinkedIn, or put it in the comments, and we will see it on YouTube as well. Or send us an email or contact us on LinkedIn. Actually, it would be great if you connected with us there. All right. So thank you so much. That was it for today. Sandra, it was a pleasure. Thank you.
Likewise,
Okay,
Claudia.
bye-bye. Bye.
Bye. Till next time.